Right, welcome everyone to our webinar today. Super excited to have you join us. We're probably just going to give it 1 minute just to let everybody dial into the network, and then we'll get kick-started. We'll get started. Oh, I'm getting some terrible. Right, welcome everyone to today's webinar. Super excited to have you here. My name is Tim Willis. I'm the CEO at simple.Capital. I'm working from Aaron at the Catalyst Fund and Seo at Kandua to help them with this latest funding round that's super exciting from Kandua. I'm going to be handing over to Aaron tonight, who's going to be our host. He's going to be asking Seo some questions. And I think at this point, probably hand over to Aaron to introduce himself and then to Seo. Thank you.
Sounds good, Tim. Thank you so much for being a part of this journey. My name is Aaron Fu, and I'm the head of growth at the Catalyst Fund. Obviously, we're very excited at what Seo at Kandua has been building. They were part of our cohort not so long ago. It was very fun to work with them through a bunch of things, from customer validation to value proposition to a range of other marketing issues a couple of months ago. And we're very, very excited to be presenting Kandua as an opportunity today. We're going to approach it as a bit of a Q&A. So it's very, very casual and very, very informal. We'll obviously also be sharing more material after this as well. So if any one of you out there need materials, please do reach out to us as well. Obviously, a large part of what we love doing at Catalyst Fund is making sure that our founders have the right capital behind them, and that's been primarily focused on institutional investors, but we're very excited to open up opportunities to angels now as well. You guys are absolutely critical to the success of entrepreneurs in your market. So that's going to be it from me. And maybe before we dive in, Shayo, do you want to maybe quickly introduce yourself and we'll dive into the questions?
Yeah, for sure. And thank you, Aaron and Tim, for hooking this all up and being continuously supportive partners. Yeah, I'm Shayo. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Kandua, the home services marketplace looking to basically shorten the distance between people who have service skills and them making a living from those skills.
Got it. Okay, cool. So obviously, we know each other very well, but the audience out there might not. So Shai, I was hoping you could tell us a little bit about, your own background, what brought you to this place and how Kandua got its first start, what inspired you, and what is it that you're building with Kandua?
Yeah, for sure. So my background is I'm from Nigeria. Grew up a fair amount of my growing up in the UK, and then university in London, where I was in London School of Economics, and then went to work in South Africa. Was wanting a big place to live that wasn't was on the continent, very passionate about things Africa, but wasn't Lagos. So I went to Johannesburg and worked in strategy consulting with Bain & Company. And while I was working there, we were kind of looking, actually in a group of friends, looking at things we could do with our weekends and just kind of side projects and things like that. And all got together, did a lot of whiteboarding. And one of the kind of concepts that kept coming up was this idea of professional dignity. And, I think for some of us who have had the great fortune of good schools and great universities and, Bain & Companies and all this stuff of the world, there's a certain amount of track record that builds and a certain amount of signaling that gives for your ability to transact more. There's we were talking about this idea of professional dignity and how your track record allows you this professional dignity. And we said, okay, how might we take those kind of, I guess, themes, and it was all very philosophical at the beginning, and make that into products, right? So how can you take the theme of track record and professional dignity and make it into product? And we came up with this idea of the LinkedIn for informal services, and that's kind of that was the seed for Kandua.com, and we built all these wonderful profiles that would allow kind of more informal service providers and businesses to kind of show their own track record and then be allowed the dignity of more opportunities. And very quickly we realized LinkedIn is a little bit of a luxury product. It's a social network, and a lot of the people that we were inviting to they loved the profiles, they loved having their own kind of website, but they wanted jobs and they wanted more work, and that's when we started overlaying kind of more marketplace features into our product. And so we started saying, okay, cool, we've got all these profiles, how do we show them to people? And we started kind of becoming a marketplace, and kind of from there it's kind of been just a journey of, and I should mention that's when we zeroed in on the home services space, because we were very broad to begin with, and we just found that a lot of plumbers, carpenters, electricians wanted these websites and wanted more customers. And we did our research and saw that there's a massive market, and there'd been a lot of successful companies who had kind of solved this kind of supply demand issue. So from there, it's just been a journey of basically that mission that I mentioned, shortening the distance between having a skill and making a living from it. And we've been, building the ecosystem of products that kind of surround the service provider ever since.
Got it. Cool. It sounds like a very big pool of problems to solve there, and it seems like Kandua is suddenly very ambitious to be able to solve all these problems. What exactly do you think is like the top 2 or 3 problems that you are most directly solving right now, that you're most passionate about? I know we talked about identity and track record, and obviously getting more business. That's always a plus for every freelancer and every sort of gig worker out there. But in your own words, I guess, like, what are the top 2 or 3 problems that you're solving today?
Yeah, for sure. So the big number 1 problem is access to market. So it's like, I need more customers. So, traditionally these service providers will rely almost, it's changing over time, but almost 100% they're relying on word of mouth as their major marketing channel. And so you work for one customer and then you wait to be referred, or you wait for them to use you again. Almost none of them before they came onto our platform had a way of actually finding new customers. So I think the first and most important problem that we solve for these service providers is access to market and more customers. And then I think the second is kind of really, how do you serve those customers and convert on those jobs or rather, let's say, how do you serve those customers in the most efficient way possible, right? So the first part of that is, how do you convert on the customers, making sure that you can communicate with them. We integrate with a lot of with WhatsApps, make for easy for chatting. We've got quoting and invoicing, things that in the workflow of doing a job, how do you make that as easy as possible? Because the problems they face kind of come as a result, let's say, of not having any systems whatsoever to manage the workflow. So first, it's, can I get the work? Secondly, it's like, can I actually fulfill on the work, and can I do it in a way that allows me to grow, rather than being stuck in a cycle of, hey, I've got some more jobs, I couldn't serve them, I couldn't get the money in time, they didn't convert, etc., etc. So now those customers are not referring me. So it's kind of finding the customers and then sustaining some sort of growth for them. Those would be the 2 big problems that we're out to solve. And then within them, there's a lot of other small ones, but I think those are the 2 main ones.
Got it. Okay, cool. And how are you leveraging tech to be able to make all this happen and make all this magic happen? For sure. So for us, it's as kind of says on the slide there, it's about being that full operating system. So first on the access to market piece,
for a single buyer, which I'll call like just a homeowner, just a regular person that needs some work done. They can come on our website. If you search plumber and you're in South Africa, will be the first result on search, and it takes a lot of work to do that. You'll then come onto our website. You'll be able to go through quite an extensive kind of triage of what you need done, you know, how many walls, what size of wall, what kind of paint you're looking for, et cetera, all the questions that help us triage a job in an easy way for the service provider to know if they can do it. And then we'll send that work to a bunch of people who say hey, I'm interested. You can then review all their ratings, their profile, you can see pictures of their work, et cetera, and then you match. So, you know, on the single homeowner side, it's really about smart matching by answering the right questions and just being in the right places online that you can actually find them, which is you know, takes some pretty decent engineering to do. And then on the kind of consolidated buyer side, which is your big corporates, whether it's insurance or hardware retail, et cetera, we integrate with their systems, whether it be the point of sale at a hardware store when you buy a kitchen, et cetera, such that you can bundle your service and product together. And then still the same kind of workflow management stuff that I just spoke about comes into play. So that's on the access to market side. And then on the kind of what we call the app store side, we enable it, and there's a bunch of things that kind of, you know, I put kind of active roadmap here. But really the main thing that we have is a CRM solution that allows our service providers to track their customers, send quotes to their customers, receive payments. I put that in brackets because, you know, we're opening that up outside of jobs coming to our platform, but for now it's just for jobs in our platform. You know, and that CRM is basically their workflow management tool, and that's all enabled by our tech.
Got it. Wow. That sounds really, really cool. I'm thinking a little bit about, you know, your various user groups here. Are you finding that you need to design very different solutions for the single buyer, for the independent contractor, and for the consolidated buyer? Like how difficult has it been to build out these different solutions?
Yeah, it's a really good question. So I find that the answer is not really, actually. So you know, when I talk about consolidated buyers, it's actually a B2B2C. So most of the things that I'm solving for the single buyer, that's the B2C part of it, is useful in that realm. So the same WhatsApp groups, the same quotes are being sent, the same payments are being made, et cetera, et cetera. So I need to now add, and you know, that's why I always like the concept of APIs, because really the kind of core, I need something done, I can do something, let's have fun, actually ends up being the same most of the time. So, and then on the other side, on the independent contractor side, again, it's the same situation, right? Anything I'm building for a customer, I am bringing to them is the same thing that they need for the customer that they already have or that they found outside of the platform. So,
got it.
Yeah, it more looks like smart, let's call it integrations and kind of, I don't know if this is the right word, but perspective. So you build for whatever perspective is coming at it, but actually the core is pretty similar across.
Got it. Yes, and you know, I'm a huge fan of this approach through APIs because like that's really sort of integrating into their current workflows and not necessarily pushing a completely new workflow onto them as well, right? Like I think sometimes individuals get intimidated building for these large corporates because it means you need to build a gigantic sort of like system and dashboard for them to like control, you know, thousands and thousands of like jobs. So really, really love that approach. When it comes to the professionals that you work with, you know, obviously you're building so much for them. What has been their response been to the product so far? What have they told you about it? How has that informed like your own sort of like journey?
Yeah, for sure. It's it's pretty amazing. I think, you know, we we've got a bunch of service providers who literally, I think it was one of the surveys that 70% of our base wouldn't have any options to grow their business if it wasn't for us. We've kind of like brought a whole new crop of people online that are actually using online tools, and the same way we are, to be honest. Like, the same way I use AdWords is how service providers kind of interact with my platform. So I think, the overarching and overwhelming kind of reviews from our active pros is very positive. We have very strong satisfaction kind of reviews, 4.1 out of 5 on average, and a lot of the promoters, they're just happy to find customers that give them more customers, and I love that. It's very compounding. You find one customer who loves you, they're going to use you again, and they're going to tell all your friends every time you ask, like, hey, can I who's your best plumber, or whatever it is. So we've kind of opened up the market to a lot of pros, and then they love the stuff we build. I think we've developed a relationship with our pros where, they're in and around the office on any given day, and they're on the phones to them. And I think it's quite a collaborative effort to build stuff that's useful for them. And I think maybe to put it in the example and in some kind of anecdotal, but kind of, I think, powerful, is the example of Dan. So Dan, I've known for 6 years, and he was one of our early carpenters on the platform. He found a niche in hanging doors. So he came to us as a carpenter.
Specific.
It's super specific, but very good for Dan, trust me. And he came to us as a carpenter. He was taking public transport everywhere, but he was great at what he did, and he was just maybe a little working towards being a businessman. He was kind of learning how to to organize his business, etc. And he found this niche, hanging doors, and kind of through our platform, he's done over 500 customers, and he'll come up. I'm sure if you put hang doors Joburg, like, his own profile will come up on Google. He's just done so many jobs in that specific niche, and then he's also a accredited installer for Leroy Merlin. So anytime someone buys a door, he does the hanging, etc. And through us, he's kind of bought a new, and I think he now has 2. He bought a bakkie and a car. He employs 2 people, and I think I love how he says, if you read the caption here, he says, thanks to Kandua, I'm like a popular somebody, and I think that's kind of the idea, is like, okay, I'm able to now have a group of customers and a network of customers that I can continue to sell into, continue to serve, and build a business through it, and also employ people. And there's a multiplier effect for the impact that we bring, and that's something that we're super excited about, and I think really, really important in the context of our continent, in the context of low employment and rather high unemployment, and the context of kind of inclusive growth. And these are the stories that we're excited about and trying to replicate as much as possible, and at as much scale as possible, for sure.
Got it. And yeah, I mean, the story of Dan is incredible, right? Like, transitioning from being like almost a solo freelancer to now almost running his own business, right? He employs people, has the tools necessary to like really deliver the quality of work that he wants to, and really sort of like, it seems like a big change in life trajectory as well. Yeah. I think for some of us out there that haven't had the chance to live in South Africa yet, can you help us contextualize, like, what does 500 new customers in 5 years mean, like, for someone like Dan? Like, what would someone like Dan have been doing prior to Kandua? Would it have looked like 50 customers a year, 10 customers a year? Like,
it would have looked closer to
describe the before.
Yeah, so the before looked like 10 customers a year, and then maybe 50 jobs a year. So maybe he was subcontracting for another contractor for the other kind of 38 jobs. So it was a very, very small network of customers, and we know Dan well, so I can say that quite confidently of what it looked like. And Dan literally was, I remember we met him, taking public transport to come to do a job, working for one of our contractors, Ernest, and that was the bulk of his work. And he was really looking for, how can I build my own network of customers, and he succeeded since.
That's incredible. That sounds like at least like a 50x increase in income and revenue over like that period of time, right?
Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah, that sounds super cool. So I guess moving on a little bit to like how things have been going with the business more overall. Like, tell us a little bit about your traction, your revenue to date. Like how is the business actually performing? We know the emotional side where people love you. Has that translated to dollars? Transactions.
Yeah, it's translating. No, we're doing pretty well. I think traction wise, we have signed up over 28,000, it's closer to 30,000 at this point, service providers on the platform, of which about 4,000 are active, just to give you a sense of who's doing stuff. And then on the customer side, about nearly actually 9,000 as of November. Customers are coming on our platform every month requesting stuff. So every month 9,000 people will say, I need a plumber, I need a carpenter, I need a tiler, and it's over loads of categories. I need a roof repairer, I need a glazier, an aluminium specialist, kitchen tabletop specialist. So we've got a bunch of categories that people are coming on our platform every month to request. On a revenue perspective, that translates to about $68,000 a month in revenue, not GMV, like actual revenue. To give you a sense of our business model, we charge a introduction fee to the service provider who wants the job. So and up to 5 service providers can put their hat in the ring to compete for the customer. So that's revenue, not GMV. And then that comprises about 80% of our revenue. And then 20% of our revenue comes from these consolidated buyers. So that adds about another 15. So in total, we're nearing about $80,000 a month in revenue. And that 15 is commission from the jobs that we do for our consolidated partners. So that works more how you would imagine it works, where there is a job, average GMV sits around $300, and then we take a percentage of that work. And so those are our 2 revenue models, and that adds up to about $80,000 a month. From a unit economics perspective, costs us about $4 or so to get a customer. Maybe it's I'm trying to do quick maths and convert it to dollars badly, but $4 a month or so to acquire a customer, and then about $8 or $8.59 to that we make off that customer. And then on the B2B side, it's there's no cost of acquisition, obviously, because we're running through partnerships, and we make close to $45 on those commissions. So that's kind of the economics from a revenue perspective, at least.
Got it. Cool. Yeah, no, it sounds like it's really sort of, especially in the last 2 years, like really taken off and grown tremendously. What's next for your scale plans? Like what now you've got Joburg, Cape Town, Durban unlocked. You've got 100 categories already. Your base of pros is very quickly growing. What's next in your scale plan?
Yeah, for sure. So I think the next main things is going a little bit deeper. So still, so we see a big opportunity in what we're calling single player mode. So the majority of what we've done has been in service of the marketplace and that kind of connecting people to supply to demand. And in doing that, we've learned and created a lot of products for our service providers to serve the customers that we're bringing them. And we really want to kind of almost productize those products and have them as standalone products that pros can use for their own customers. So we're kind of building out the single player mode version of what we already have. So instead of only being able to send quotes and invoices for the customers we're bringing and being able to take payments from the customers that we're bringing, et cetera, we're making it so the pros can do it for their own customers and start managing all their customers on our platform. And then beyond that, it's time to start looking beyond the shores of South Africa. We're building kind of a strong advisory board that's coming into this round that can help us kind of think that through and start planning how we bring what we've done in South Africa beyond and into the continent. And we see with this ecosystem approach and this kind of full stack approach that we've taken, we also think it gives us a lot of agility in how we scale, and allows us to be context first when we're expanding into markets, because we kind of have a breadth of ways to actually enter markets. So those would be the two things: going deeper into more of a single player SaaS model for the service providers, which kind of completes our 3 pillars that we spoke about earlier, and then taking those pillars in a context relevant way beyond South Africa.
Got it. Cool. We're gonna move on in a little bit, but maybe before we do it, I just wanted to share that in the time that we've had working with you, we've always been so impressed at your team's ability to just bring your customers so close to you and really have them a part of your family, have them in your office, have them close by. I remembered spending a lot of time with the team at Grab in Southeast Asia before they recently went public. They went as far as to build daycare centers for their workers close to their offices, just so their product managers and marketing team could get closer to them. And I always found that really cool. So really love how close you are to the professionals and that you're building really for them, right? Which is just wonderful. So Shai, you're obviously not the only one to have gotten wind of the fact that there's a huge market here with professionals and with informal work in South Africa and really in a bunch of other markets as well. So maybe talk to us a little bit about your competition. Who else is actually building in this space, and how do you see yourselves complementing them, competing against them? How is that ecosystem coming together right now?
For sure. So I'll speak for South Africa, but it's kind of broadly applicable. So I think there's 3 main segments of kind of competitors, if you put it that way. One is your directories. I'll start with them. So directories are the kind of traditional way people think about finding services and small businesses to do, like the yellow page, and all well and good. And I think they solve a discovery problem pretty well, but it kind of ends there. So where they don't vet, and there's little verification done of pros, it's just lists. There's very little matching that happens. There's certainly no kind of deeper integration that allows them to be able to kind of operate in the B2B spaces that we do. And for the pros, it's a listing. Let me just put it that way from a directory perspective, and we're kind of directory 2.0 or 3.0 as the internet. You've seen that journey everywhere in the world. Everyone's gone from directories to marketplaces to on-demand kind of thing. And then on the on-demand side, which is kind of the Uberization of anything really, but services specifically. We've seen kind of good kind of traction, and guys like Sweep South especially have done really well in that space. And I think there's room for everybody, and we're all good friends actually. I kind of prefer, let me say, our business just because we have that breadth of different categories, as I mentioned earlier, that with a much higher GMV or margin or kind of job value coming through our platform, and it also offers us a lot more opportunities. It just makes us a lot more agile. Whereas when you focus on one vertical, I think given the nature of these markets, you kind of want to be as broad as possible in our space, and we've kind of taken advantage of that. And I think lastly, the B2B thing is also very important. With our ability, as I mentioned earlier, being that API let me just give you an example. For one, we started working with an insurer, and they've got a really established player that they've been working with for a long time to fulfill claims. So if your geyser bursts, you'd call them, and then they would send someone out. Got a really established player that they've been working with for ages, and still working with, and it's going well with them. But they're like, hey, there's a bunch of other stuff that happens when a geyser bursts, like your carpet gets ruined, your ceiling might fall through, and we're looking for a player that's both nationwide and category wide. And then we're like, hey, we can do that. So, it just allows us that kind of optionality to work with a lot more people. And, what we, it's a bit harder, but it does kind of give us a much larger market to go after as well.
Got it. Yeah, I can imagine there are not a lot of platforms out there that specialize in door hangers and a lot of these specialist things. And obviously,
Exactly.
like, not all categories are born the same, right? They have very, very different margins, very different cost bases, very, very different sort of availability levels of expertise. So like that sounds like really, really smart. You've spoken a lot about repairs and work that tends to happen like in homes in the last sort of half an hour that we've spent together. Obviously, like, our home has become a lot more of a guarded place now, with this little wave of a virus blowing through the world over the last year or so. And people have gotten a lot more cautious with regards to letting people in their homes or being in close contact with people and things like that. So I guess that's sort of my long-winded way of asking, like, how has the pandemic affected your business? Did you see demand drop off at some point? Is it picking back up? Talk us through that a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. So it's been up and downs. And South Africa's had a lot of lockdowns and quite intense ones, but generally the trend has been up, and I think we're extremely lucky for that. And that 2021 we're going to be double year on year where we were 2020, and I don't think many people can say that. And 2020 we were double where we were in 2019, and so I think the general trend has been up. And it's basically three things that kind of we've noticed that have been kind of very lucky for us. Number one is that everyone's at home, as you mentioned. People now have to think about, how am I going to live here, work here, have my kids here, do all this stuff. And, this thing has been broken for 2 years and I never thought to fix it. So generally we saw an industry-wide boom. Our partners in the DIY and hardware store and furniture and also quite good trends. So I think there's a wave that we've sat on top of that's been pretty positive for us. That was one. And then the second is that I think a lot of businesses had to really kind of look at themselves in the mirror and say, okay, what am I good at? And where do I want to work with people and partner with people? It kind of opened up a space. I think a lot of conversations we were having around partnerships suddenly opened because everyone's a bit more, I guess, experimental, but also trying to consolidate their core. And so kind of our proposition of being the service partner for a lot of businesses kind of, I think, became things moved a lot quicker. And then third, I think small businesses, and this one I'd say is, an impact we're yet to kind of really see, but, we think it's going to be there. I think small businesses are some of the most hurt, and some of our pros, even though that trend has been upwards, I think have struggled a lot. I know have struggled a lot in this period. And there's a push kind of worldwide, really, but also to kind of enable small businesses and job tech and things like that are becoming kind of things that are in the conversation more than ever, and I think that's really exciting for us because we're confident in the impact of the work that we're doing, and it's sad that it takes a whole pandemic for these kind of conversations to become important, but that's. We're not going to think about that too much. We're going to think about what's kind of happening now and make sure that we're right on top of those tailwinds as well.
Got it. Yes, I mean, I think the pandemic has certainly forced us to reconsider our living environment as well as how we generate income and our sort of, I guess, professional environment as well. We've definitely seen, individuals, entrepreneurs, and small businesses that have adopted digital solutions like yours to connect to the market, to better organize, to really be so much more resilient during events like this. And I'm pretty sure this is not going to be the last sort of shock event in our lifetimes. And so the work that you're doing to like make these entrepreneurs like so much more like resilient to these shocks is really, really important. So really, really glad you're in the space and you've been able to almost like leverage this to grow your own business. So that's really, really cool to see. Obviously, like, it's not just you that's building it and coding it and approaching all your customers. I'm sure there's a lot of people behind the Kandua mission as well. So maybe would like to now switch over to your team. So maybe talk us through a little bit about who else has been on with you on this journey to bring Kandua to life.
Yeah, for sure. No, not just me. I'm just the pretty face that gets to say big things and then see what happens. But no, I think really smart, very mission-driven team. It's something we do not shy away from. Is we're rallied around a mission, and it's helped us bring on some really good talents. Arjun is my co-founder. He's kind of studied a master's in computational biology after doing math stats and computer science in his undergrad, and kind of has been the technical, I should say, backbone to all of our products. And Graham, who's come on a bit later, but kind of has had a large impact as our head of operations. He was also at Bain with me, and prior to that was at Deloitte, and where he got his CA and his CFA, and kind of runs our operations. And beyond that, we've got a team of wonderful people who, in their own right, have great CVs and et cetera, that really allow us to, we've got a really tight-knit team and a strong mission-driven energy that I think allows us to produce a lot more than the sum of our parts. And then on the investor side, we're kind of lucky, or we've managed to have a lot of partners on the funding side that cross the different kind of financing that you can get. So we have quite a blended group of support. So on the venture side, Asisa, IDF Capital, Knife Capital, Alan Gray, more recently, have all invested in us in our previous rounds. We've managed to also do kind of projects and grant funding and more social impact funding through the Catalyst Fund yourselves and the French Development Bank, and Globus Foundation, and then strategic funding through Leroy Merlin, who I mentioned earlier. So I think we've kind of been lucky in that way, and that we appeal to a broad group of funders and continue to. And I think given that the ambitious nature of our goals, it's important to be able to kind of raise money, let's call it appropriately for all of the products and projects that we undertake.
Got it. And what's to me like really a standout from the list of investors you have is that it really speaks towards your mission as well, right? And like how you set up the company. There clearly are investors on there that wouldn't do anything if it wasn't a business that had a really strong social purpose and strong mission behind it, and really wanted to sort of create change for a lot of emerging entrepreneurs out there. And similarly, like there are a lot of investors I see that you've already had a chance to work with who wouldn't back a company unless they feel it's going to be a gigantic opportunity that will span across multiple markets and be a significant enterprise. right? So that blend is really, really cool to see. But obviously you're looking to add a little bit more to that group of people who are behind you as well. So maybe take us through a little bit of like what you're raising for right now. I know you're raising a little bit of money, and obviously that's going to like continue to accelerate your growth. But maybe we can get into a little bit more specifics of like what this money will be going towards. That would be wonderful.
For sure. So so we're raising a pre-series A, and I think, by the way, just that's a great point around the the incentives of the funders that we already have around the table, because it's something that we've done very deliberately, because it's important to us as well to be accountable to those things as well. So we're raising a pre-series A, about $1.5 million is what we set out to raise. It's ended up looking closer to 2, and it's been led by Knife Capital and Alan Gray, co-led. And we've got the majority of it, and now kind of wanting to bring on some value-adding partners and advisors and people that we think can add to the story that we're trying to build, and trying to do so in as democratic a way as possible. So working with simple.Capital as well to allow both people that we have worked with in the past and have advised us, but also people that we think that are passionate about what we're doing and can also add value to be able to participate at this round. So we've kind of putting that round together now and just nearing close. And what are we trying to do with that? For us, it's really setting ourselves up to have a big Series A where we're talking about scale, and what that means practically, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, is kind of solidifying what we already do. We're market leaders in our B2C products, continuing to put the right team around that to almost stabilize it, I should say. Then in the B2B, grow, and we wanted to kind of really add. Right now we are in retail hardware and quite cemented there. We'd like to be in at least one more market, ideally insurance, which we are running really successful pilots on right now, and maybe one more, which would be property management probably. And then the last pillar is our kind of single player SaaS product, which we want to have in market, and kind of validated from a product market fit perspective. And as I said earlier, we think that sets us up to have the right foundation for scale, which is kind of 3 unit profitable products that all speak to each other and enable each other, making a very defensible kind of positioning that both allow us to then kind of, let's say, put fuel on the fire, both in terms of growing in market, but also starting to see how we might take contextually relevant approaches to new markets.
Got it. Sounds like a very intense couple of months coming up for you and your team, but also sounds very exciting.
It's been intense, yeah.
Well, I think this slide does a great job of sort of taking us through, your initial phase of build. We're now at grow. We're heading towards scale. And I'm really curious about diving into sort of like the international sort of like guys out there who have done very similar things, right? Like obviously, Fiverr is out there. TaskRabbit has been doing a really, really good job. I'd love for you to talk a little bit about maybe the inspiration you got from them and how you see maybe one day even taking on some of these giants of like the gig work economy one day.
Yeah, for sure. There's a lot of examples to look at, and I'm friends with a lot of them now because I'm a LinkedIn ninja. But the truth is we've seen people take advantage of increasing internet penetration, and kind of this massive market, and there's lots of different ways you can approach it. Some approach it solely from a B2B perspective, some approach it from a completely vertical perspective, some approach it from a breadth perspective, so kind of like loads of different ways to get about it. So from each of them you learn a lot, but I think the main takeaway is really just with increasing internet penetration, increase of payment products, more people on search, more people on WhatsApp, etc., the home services is just one of those markets that will be big. It's a foundational, things will always need to be fixed, things will always need to be installed. And so I think the key thing for me is just kind of understanding that the opportunity is actually non-negotiable. It's a matter of, okay, what is the best route to a big business and a defensible, successful business? And kind of looking at our international comparables allows us to kind of build some worldview on that. Nothing beats in market, but helps us build that worldview on how we might, what they say, like learn from other people's mistakes as much as possible. But I think the main thing is there's a non-negotiable market to approach, and we're very lucky that we're pretty much the first movers in this space on the continent, really.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's really cool to have like idols to look up to as well, right? Like people that have forged that path, people that made mistakes that you mentioned that you can learn from. Paystack always said that they were the Stripe for Africa before they became Stripe. So I wonder what's in the future for Kandua as well. We've done a lot of talking about the overall business. Obviously, it's on its way to become, couple $100 million or maybe $1 billion one day, and we're very excited to be a part of it. But I'm sure a lot of people tuning in today are also very excited to be a part of it. So at this point, I would love to maybe bring on Tim onto the stage to talk a little bit about how exactly that can happen. How can we join Shayo on his journey? So Tim, over to you.
Great, thanks, Aaron. And I've just pulled up a quick slide here just to explain to folks on the call how they can get involved in this round. So the team at Kandua have set aside $300,000 for angels. You can invest from $1,000 and up, so $1,000 per share. The special purpose investment vehicle is based in the UK, so it's a London-based vehicle that you'll be investing in. And as you can see in the diagram, as a private Kandua investor, you'll be acquiring some pref shares in that investment, which will then hold the underlying $300,000 worth of equity in Kandua. There are other investments in this vehicle, but they're completely ring-fenced. The team at BFA Global and Catalyst Fund, Aaron, have kindly picked up some of the subscription fees to make this all possible. So very glad to have you guys on board and supporting this whole process. So to investors, the structure does not cost you any extra funds. You can basically invest directly in. There are no annual fees and there's no carried interest. So that's how things will be set up. And yeah, we're excited to get a number of folks on board. We've already actually had some individuals, some angel investors already join. And so if you're keen to take part, you can get in touch with us at simple.Capital. You can either scan this code for the expression of interest or complete a form, or just email me at tim@simplecapitalpartners.com, and we can help you get set up with investing in this round with Kandua. So yeah, that's I think where things are from our side. I don't know if there are any questions there, Aaron, from your side, but I'll just pop my email address into the chat in case anybody's interested in doing that.
Got it. Perfect. Thank you, Tim. And once again, we're so thrilled to be working with you and your team who have deep experience bringing individuals into very, very exciting opportunities, just like Kandua for the last couple of years. So we're very excited to be working with you and collaborating through this. So thanks once again for joining us in this. Shayo, thank you for your time as well today and sharing all the cool things that Kandua has been up to and the trajectory going forward. It's so nice to see, founders still being open to take in, supporters and in the form of individuals and into the investment round, even so late in the game and even after all the success you've gotten. So yeah, thank you for opening that opportunity up as well. And Tim, I guess that's us wrapped up for the day. Yeah.
Yeah, great, and thanks so much for putting this together. It's been great to have you guys on, and an excellent expose, I suppose, into the Kandua business. Definitely, always interesting to learn so much about it and get into the nuts and bolts, I think.
Absolutely. And I think we always say entrepreneurs first, but I think in this case, entrepreneurs last. So Shaya, do you want to send us off with any final words?
Yeah, for sure. Thank you, guys. Really appreciate it. And as you mentioned, Aaron, I think, yeah, this is an endeavor that we want to bring as many people on board with us as possible. Yeah, we're trying to do big, important things and want to do them with people. Excuse me. And yeah, once do them with people that are passionate about what we do and can support us and add value to our story, of which the two of you are a part of that group. So thank you to you two. And yeah, look forward to more onwards and upwards. Cheers.
Super cool. Thanks, guys.